there already. You'll find a link in the chat, as I already said. The League moderates candidate forums using a format that is fair and informative. We have asked the candidates to keep to the issues of the position rather than personal attacks, because our goal is for voters to be able to learn more about candidates than they get from campaign ads or social media. The views expressed are those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters. Sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement by the sponsor or by the League of any candidate. We are recording the forum, and it will be available unedited from beginning to end to the public on our website, which will also be included in the chat. We have asked attendees to submit questions beforehand, but you can also submit them using the link provided in the chat box if you would like them asked during the course of the forum. Please remember to use civility and respect in wording your questions and frame them so both candidates can answer. Assisting tonight, we have lead questions screeners, Beryl Flum and Rachel McDonald Hernandez. And the screener from our host group is David Ray, who's been an absolutely amazing resource for us from the Imperial Beach Chamber of Commerce. Our timekeeper is Jean Widener, and our fantastic Zoom administrator is the one and only Kim Knox. We will adjourn this evening by 7. This is because originally we had planned to represent both District 2 and District 4, but we'll only have representation from District 2 this evening, so we'll actually get you out of here earlier so you can enjoy your weekend sooner. So hopefully that's good news. All viable candidates were invited, and they are all participating this evening, unless they couldn't make it. Candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, 2 minutes for their closing, and 1 minute to respond to each question from the audience. We will alternate who answers each question first. Prior to the start of this event, the order of speaking was determined randomly. Mark will give the first opening statement, and Jack will have the first closing statement. So Mark, your opening statement, please, and then Jack. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you to the IB Chamber and the League of Women Voters for this great event. So good evening. I'm Councilmember Mark West, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight to speak to our neighbors across Imperial Beach. Most of you know me from my time on the council, but some might know I served 24 years in the U.S. Navy, retiring as an officer in 2011. When my wife and I moved to Imperial Beach, we fell immediately in love. The people who make up our community and the deep roots of the military are all things we cherish. During my time on the council, fighting for our quality of life has been my #1 priority and #1 goal. That's why I went to Washington, D.C. to lobby for $300 million in USMCA so we can finally stop the sewage and protect our beaches. We have a lot of work ahead, but we're finally getting the money to do it. It's not just a matter of recreation either, it's a matter of military readiness. As a veteran, it's important to me that our active duty service members have the ability to train every day to the best of their ability. And that's not the case when we have sewage washing up on our beaches here and in Coronado. That's why I organized, recruited, and joined 4 former Navy SEALs on 60 Minutes to tell a national audience about the problems in our community. We're filling potholes, making sure our streets are safe, and making the city a little more beautiful with all the murals. But we also have a tremendous regional role to play. As a council member, I'm appointed to the San Diego Community Power, the regional government agency responsible for delivering 100% clean, renewable energy to our city and broader region. As a council member, I also sit on the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, where I help negotiate a project labor agreement to ensure workers from IB receive a living wage and job protections on the $3 billion expansion of the San Diego Airport Terminal 1. COVID continues to challenge our city. I've worked with our city manager, businesses, and community to distribute almost $121,000. We have a lot of work left to do, and that's why I'm asking you to vote for me, D2. Thank you, and I look forward to all of your questions this evening.
Thank you, Jack.
Hey, it's Jack Fisher here. I moved to Imperial Beach in 1976. Much simpler times back then as a kid. And the reason I'm running for city council is to make sure that Imperial Beach is that same wonderful town that I grew up in. We've seen some great improvements. We've seen some bigger buildings, some little bit shiny paint here and there. We've also seen the town grow in its popularity. We have some great destinations on the beach and places for people to visit. I have the heart of a servant. I don't have a huge amount of political aspirations other than to serve the residents of Imperial Beach. My profession is a chef. I'm great under pressure. If you've ever seen Iron Chef, I was there. I know how to run a tight kitchen, to be important to work with people, be fair, to listen, to communicate is key in the profession that I'm in. I'm grateful for the opportunity to represent the residents of District 2, my neighbors, the residents around, and especially the business district. The heart of District 2 encompasses a huge business district that runs from Palm Avenue towards the beach and has the large share of the mom and pop businesses. So I'm looking forward to representing them. And again, Jack Fisher, looking to get your vote here in District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to go ahead and transition into questions now. And Jack, we'll start with you. What do you think is the biggest problem facing Imperial Beach, and what policy steps would you take to address that problem?
Well, I think that the immediate policy, the thing that faces our city is having the finances to continue to fund the police department and to provide all the services that we need. In the future, policy for me would be important to make sure that we have business-friendly opportunities from the city and to fill the empty vacant spots along Palm Avenue with businesses that will bring tax revenue and to help fill that void that we felt with the COVID hit. But I'm very proud of our city manager for the ability he's had to keep our city balanced in their budget and to do all the wonderful things that we continue to need in the city. So, you know, I think that, again, being solvent from a business standpoint and from a city standpoint, again, being able to pay all of our bills and to provide all the great service is important. I would like to see a little bit more of our expenditures in the park and recreation to provide places for our children to be safe and to have outdoor places to play in the future.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
Yes, good evening. That's a great question. And I think the most important thing that we have right now in front of us is really the COVID recovery. And I've been really happy with the work that I have been doing with our local businesses. When the mayor came together and did the business task force, I had surrounded myself with a bipartisan group of people to really work with our businesses. And when we helped secure that $121,000, we did it without any other organizations getting involved. A lot of organizations like National City had the South County EDC distribute that money, and South County EDC took 10% off that. But every penny of that we put back into our city. So that's really important. And I feel very strongly that we did a great job. Next, it's obviously we've got to finish the pollution in the Tijuana River Valley. And that's why it's really important to continue the pressure on Mexico and continue the pressure to make sure that the $300 million that we've secured is rightly spent on the correct projects for the entire future of Imperial Beach.
Thank you, Mark. You both touched on this briefly in your opening remarks, but just to kind of specify a little bit more, what personal or professional experience has prepared you for this office? And Mark, if you could start us off, please.
You know, there's a couple of things. One, I have been in service my entire life. I mean, when I joined the Navy right out of high school, it was something that I really wanted to, service as a part of me. I feel like I want to give to our communities, and I've done that my entire life. And then also as a businessman, I think it's really important. I worked to secure multi-million-dollar contracts through the company that I work for, CACI, with the government at all different levels. And it has made me able to easily walk into a table, walk into a room, and be able to talk to people and have them understand that these are important issues that we need to have, and that I have the ability to negotiate those contracts. And that's important. When we're sitting at tables, when we're at the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, the San Diego Community Power, or even at Sandex, all those things are important, that we have the ability to negotiate and understand the details of the finances to the utmost ability.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
Hey, so like I mentioned, I'm a chef by trade. Taking the heat in the kitchen always creates a bit of pressure on the individual, but you have to stay cool, stay calm, stay focused, get things done on a timely manner to eliminate lots of processes. I know that government likes processes. I'm about getting it done, doing it right the first time, and having a clear vision. I've also served in a leadership position in church, and so I understand the needs of individuals. I've been able to be the peacemaker, the person that's the go-to guy when needed. I also think that just by my nature, I am sensible enough to listen and to make sense of what people need and what I'm hearing from them, and then make a decision based on the situation and their needs. So Like I said, staying cool in the kitchen isn't the easiest thing, but that's what I do.
Thank you, Jack. To switch a little, I may have touched on this briefly, but it's top of everyone's mind. We'll talk a little bit about the impact of COVID. What action steps would you take to create jobs due to unemployment from COVID in Imperial Beach? And Jack, we'll start with you.
Boy, that's kind of a tough question. It's the key is to follow all the guidelines that have been set forward from the state and from the county and from the city to make sure that people are being safe and doing what's needed to stop or slow the spread, however you may have it. It's really hard. You just have to be business friendly, get people back into the opportunity, and just work with them. I don't know what allowances would be out there to sit from the city to businesses, but I don't know if the city actually has a plan to create jobs. It's kind of not their thing, in my opinion. I think just creating opportunities for businesses to get open quickly. Again, avoiding processes that are timely and costly is important to me. So again, it's a tough question. It's a tough time for all of us. I'm hoping that the residents of Imperial Beach are doing well through this time, and we'll get through this together.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, great. Fantastic question. I think the first and most important is really, my role as the San Diego Community Power is to really bring some job development to our community. Because when we take the money out of SDG&E, we can put it into business programs that are actually developing. In fact, I was working with our local representative just recently, talking about how we can make our students at the high school level get some job training so they immediately go into high-paying jobs in the energy sector and in San Diego Community Power. And then also, my work at the San Diego Community Regional Airport Authority is really important. Terminal 1 expansion, that $3 billion project is going to be the catalyst to bring our community out of COVID. And it's, there are PLA that is put in place. It's $3 billion. There are people in our community, hardworking electricians and sheet metal workers, that this is something that can take advantage. And last but not least, I've been working with our businesses to really grow their education. I got 3 local businesses recently by Kaiser, a mini MBA program, and I'm really happy for that as well.
Thank you, Mark. Actually, this next question kind of stems really beautifully into what you were just talking about, both of you. So less of how to help people with their jobs and more about businesses. So what steps will you take to improve the economy and enable and empower small businesses to survive the pandemic? And Mark,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was ready for that question. No, I think, like I said, I'm very interested in making sure that we are developing programs that can educate our youth so when they get into the workforce, that they can step right into it. And San Diego Community Power is at a prime example of that. All those job creation that they're looking at between it, solar energy, battery storage, electrification of cars are all ways that we can put our high school students on a path to a good paying job for the future. And then another thing that I really want to touch on when I worked on this was when we did our business development plan, we really went out ahead of anybody else. When the rest of the county was scrambling to make restaurants outdoor friendly, guess what? I had worked with our council to make sure that businesses could go out into our parking lots and into the street in March, right when COVID hit. So we were thinking about this way before anybody else was actually doing it. So create the jobs, bring them to IB.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
Repeat the question just one more time. I just want to make sure I get all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. What steps will you take to improve the economy and empower and enable small businesses to survive the pandemic?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to find out who is surviving and what their needs are. It's an important part of the city to reach out. But I think most importantly, if we have the help and again, working with the Chamber of Commerce is huge. They do provide a lot of our what's the word I'm looking for? They provide a little bit of outreach to our local business owners, and they have kind of their finger on the pulse. And so to help them survive, we got to know what they need. We got to find the programs that are from the state and then from the county that are going to help them financially. And then again, like Mr. West mentioned, is to get them out and kind of ease up maybe some restrictions we have, get them out on the sidewalks. I think that's been fantastic for our local businesses. And again, we go from being a city and having all these rules. We need to go to a city and to have a heart a little bit more and to understand the needs. And again, continue to help our businesses the best way that we can.
Thank you, Jack. Switching gears a little here, California is releasing thousands of people from prisons to reduce the transmission of COVID. How can the city help those returning to Imperial Beach navigate re-entry into the community? And Jack, if you could start us off, please.
That's a very interesting question. So whoever submitted that, thank you, to get the thoughts process to go from there. Again, I don't know if that's the role of the city. I think there's some county and some state programs to help people get enrolled. Again, if there's ways that the city could provide programs through businesses to get these people employed. I personally know a friend of mine who has been in that situation. And, it's been important for him just to chance to get that first step, somebody who can reach out, forget the past and look towards the future. That's really the key for these people. If their background holds them down forever, then they're not really going to benefit society. So I really think it's just a matter of working with the individuals, whatever programs we can help them with, guide them to where they need to be. But again, if we can look and work with our businesses, maybe some type of program, some tax breaks, just some type of leniency that helps them, get these gentlemen or females out and gives them a hand up to get them on the right path for their future.
Thank
That's
you, Jack.
the key.
Mark?
Yeah, I think I really applaud the work that the state has done with allowing our low wage offenders to be back on the street, because it's really important that they're out there and not in jails where they can contract COVID. That is not the place they want to be, and I applaud the work that they have done. I think first and foremost, it's really important that we work with the county to set up education processes and education programs that help these people integrate back into the city and become and be contributing members. And we as a city can do these things. We can set up programs using the county. And I am going to say this right here. We need the county to open up that $1 billion piggy bank that they have been sitting on for so long, and help us put that money to good use, whether it's educating these low wage offenders, whether it's building housing, or whether it's really developing education processes for our students. So when they get out on the job force, they're ready to hit the ground running right away.
Thank you, Mark. If elected, will you vote for high density housing projects with SANDAG funding that goes against the locals' embraced vision of classic Southern California? Mark, if you could start us off, please.
Yeah, the answer is no. The reality of the situation is we have far too long lived in a city that's had a one-size-fits-all approach to our community. And since I've lived here in 2007, I'm tired of seeing families raise their kids and then have those kids move away because they can't afford Imperial Beach. We need to change the supply and demand structure of our community. All we have now is a demand. We have no supply. So what we need to do is we need to find ways to have, once again, the county open up that $1 billion program, their piggy bank, and help us work on our major transportation corridors to figure out ways to build the right housing so everyone can afford it, not just affordable. It needs to meet everyone. And then I really want to work on to make sure that accessory dwelling units are available in our communities. I just saw a house on Delaware between Donnox and Elm that's perfect. It's got his mom and dad in the back and the kids in front. It's a perfect ADU.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
Hey, Francesca, the question was breaking up. I didn't hear it clearly. I'm sorry to ask, but could you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, no worries. My internet might be going in and out, so bear with me. If elected, will you vote for high density housing projects with SANDAG funding that goes against the locals' embraced vision of classic Southern California?
Well, that's an easy one. I'm absolutely against high density housing. I think we've been stuck with a huge number from SANDAG and from the state. And I hope that as we participate in the lawsuit with the city of Coronado, I hope that we get out of this, because it's a huge number for us. Over the past cycle, we were only able to put in about 380 new places for people to live. I think that the ADUs are a great alternative to us. But again, that mandated number is way too high. I wish that our current council representatives on SANDAG would never, ever put us in a position where we would be stuck with this. And it will definitely detract from the small town feel that Imperial Beach has had for my entire life here since 1976. Do we need more housing? It's possible, but I don't want a high rise in my neighbor's backyard. I don't want it down the street. I think that it's not being selfish. I think it's being sensible to listen to the residents of what they want, what they need, and how we're going to get there. Again, I am absolutely against high density housing for Imperial Beach.
Thank you, Jack. What policy steps will you take to address the issue of affordable housing and the problem of homelessness? And Jack, if you could start off, please.
That's a two-part question. I'm going to address the affordable housing. You know, as a city, we are not in the business of the housing market. The market is organic and it flows up and down as it's needed. You know, we do have a limited supply here in Imperial Beach. We don't have huge lots that can be knocked down, but we are seeing some growth in Imperial Beach. I was down by the beach and I've seen some beautiful new lots that have some beautiful houses. They went from one household resident to a couple to accommodate that. Homelessness, not really a huge problem. I don't see it growing. I've seen it grow just a touch, be a little bit more obvious during the time of COVID. Checking with the sheriff's department, there's just about 8 to 12 people that they come in contact often. It's not a really big thing, but I think that residents need to be aware of it. If they see activity that seems illegal or odd or strange or dangerous, they need to reach out to our sheriffs. I applaud our sheriffs for the job that they do. They do a great job, and I support them fully in everything that they've done.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
Yeah, great. First of all, I want to go harken back to something. You know, the lawsuit that we joined with Coronado is important, but it is not about RENA. The lawsuit is really about the voting structure at Sandag. So just to make sure that everybody's clear about that. Now, I truly believe that I think all of us can feel the effects of COVID, and I'm seeing it in our homeless. Our numbers are increasing, and I'm seeing more and more people. And the reason why, they don't have a place to live. Affordable housing and homelessness go hand in hand, and we need to make sure that we find those places along Highway 75 that are underdeveloped. And I'm talking about the carburetor stop, those places that need redevelopment. We can find ways to do that. And you know what? It's once again going back to the county. They are our housing representative. They need to open up the pocketbook to make sure that cities like Imperial Beach don't have to shoulder the burden all on our own. We need the county to step up and be a part of the solution so we can solve our homelessness and our housing together, because that's the only way we're going to get this done, is if we work together.
Thank you, Mark. If elected, how can you help resolve the conflicts of interest between nonprofit organizations such as Wild Coast or Surfrider and even the city council members themselves and the office of Imperial Beach Mayor? And Mark, if you could please start us off.
Well, I'm not really sure what they're talking about. I don't think that there is a conflict of interest between Surfrider. I was the chair of Surfrider San Diego, and I know how it works. And there's no conflict of interest that I'm aware of. If they know about something, they should probably ask. And the Mayor Dedina, that's something that you need to ask the mayor. I mean, if he feels that that's important, I do not feel that there is a conflict of interest. I think we all have the best interests of Imperial Beach at heart. We are all working to make sure that our city has got representation at all different kinds of tables, whether it's at San Diego Community Power, the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, or other organizations. And I work with all of our people. I work with churches, Latter Rains Ministry. I did a hand sanitizer outreach to all of our communities at the IB Neighborhood Center. And these are the things that we need to work. Because you know what? To get through these challenging times, we all need to come together to work on goals for the future, not look at theories of the past.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
Well, I think there is definitely some conflict of interest that's going on. If we look at the $300 million that is going to help fix our sewage problem, you'll see that Wild Coast and Surfrider have had a part in that, and they'll get a take of it as it goes through. You know, it's not a speculation. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are facts. If you look through the paperwork, you have to dig a little deeper than just watching social media or whatever you have. But it's important that we do look as residents a little bit deeper and look at the plan that's been proposed and make sure it's the right one. And again, see who's going to benefit. And I will say that the residents would ultimately benefit, but I also think there's some financial gain for nonprofits. I think that there should be a little bit more scrutiny from our city attorney and watching some of the the actions that are done, and making sure that those who are participating on the council recluse themselves when needed for a few more of the agenda items than we're seeing at this point. So that's my take.
Thank you, Jack. In what ways do you think climate change is likely to affect Imperial Beach, and how would you address those changes? And Jack, if you could start us off, please.
Well, I think climate change is something that we hear a lot about. I'm not sure us in the US can do a whole lot to change it. I think that the nature runs its course. Again, it's very organic. It's been doing its thing since the world's been here. And so I see that there may be some rising levels of sea that might be coming. Again, this is theoretic. We don't have any data that's going to completely support what will happen in the future. We can watch what's happened in the past and see trends and movements. But I think that, we as citizens of the United States, we live in a country that has wonderful regulations and rules from the EPA. We are doing our best. I think going green is continuing to a great extent, but I don't think that it's going to be government who will save us all. I think that each individual has to put in a little bit of part, do the recycling, make sure that the recycling programs are going to do what they need to do. And so, climate change, yeah, it's out there, I guess, but we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
Great question. I truly believe that climate change is something that we have to deal, and it is going to be the biggest threat to our future. And that's the reason why I fully embrace the San Diego Community Power. And we are working to make sure that we bring 100% renewable energy to our community. And I applaud the work that our state has done. As the fires have raged across California, it is directly linked to climate change. It is directly linked to the warming of our planet. And we need to do something about it. And I am all for making sure that we work with our communities so we can put more solar panels on the roofs, so we can put battery storage into our community, so we can make electric cars more affordable so people can take advantage of them. These are things that all work and they all are part of it. Recycling is not going to solve climate change. We need to make sure that we get to the point where we are finding alternative energies that can be used to market our economy. And when you embrace green, it makes jobs and makes things better for the future.
Thank you, Mark. Switching gears a little here. How would you prioritize the need for street repairs and parking availability? Mark, if you could start us off, please.
Yeah, sure. I am very excited that that's a good question. When I go around and talk to people, parking and speeding are definitely high on their priorities. It is one thing that I think is important. I really applaud the work that Eric Minicelli has done and our public works director. He has prioritized, and we have a complete breakdown of every road in Imperial Beach and where it's the life expectancy of it and what it needs. And in fact, my road right out in front of my house just happened to get paved this last year because it finally hit the top of the list. And it's important that we develop these things so we can have a systematic approach to making sure that we are getting to the point where we're placing those roads. Now, as far as parking, I look for doing more to make sure that we can take parking and put it on the property away so we can make sure that we've got enough room so people can go down and park in our communities. It's important. We've got to have it.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
I think that parking continues to be a really big issue. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I support small business, but I also think there's an important part of that is making sure that they're providing adequate parking down by the beach. It's a premium parking. We've had businesses open there who have not been able to provide adequate parking. They've been given the opportunity to open without that, which is, that's really up to them. I think that's just one of those things that's going to continue to be on. What was the second part of the question, Francesca?
The second part is, how would you prioritize the need for street repairs?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I forgot that. I think one of the keys is I would like to see the city's list that Mr. West is talking about. I think our residents and my neighbors would love to see it because it kind of gives us a little bit of hope of when their street might be paved. I've talked to somebody who lives just down the street from Mr. West, and they've been waiting for quite a while for their street to be paved. It's unfortunate they've had to wait. And again, there's not an unlimited money tree to fix stuff, but I really want to see that list.
Thank you, Jack. And if elected, what is your plan to prevent cross-border sewage spills into Imperial Beach over the next year? And Jack, if you can go ahead and start us off.
You know, once again, you broke up. I'm so sorry, but could you just
No.
repeat one more time?
No, I'm happy to. If elected, what is your plan to prevent cross-border sewage spills in Imperial Beach over the next year?
Well, you know, for me, I'm not sure there's anything that our council could do to prevent cross-border spills unless we're going to build, you know, a half-mile long breakwater, big fence, fans to turn it back, pumps to push it back over to the south part of the thing. I think that working with the federal and the local governments is really where our money and our time needs to be spent. You know, sending consultants down south of the borders is really not where we need to be. We're very ineffective. We're a very small town with a very tight pocketbook. We don't have the big money to fight the Mexican government and tell them what to do. That's what our federal government needs to do. That's what our locally elected officials need to be doing. And that's something I feel like we've neglected as a city. We've tried to fight this with Tijuana and with the Mexican government, and this is ineffective from a city. It's cost us thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And again, we should be pushing from our side over, making sure that those who represent us in our state and then the federal government do the right thing for us.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to say that, you know, we really work bipartisanly to work with the EPA. See, the EPA was given the $300 million to actually work, they're the ones who are going to be the executor over that funding. And President Trump has been involved in this. So I think it's really important that we've got all people working on this problem, and they want to make sure that we are building the right infrastructure on this side of the border to prevent cross-border sewage spills, and that's what that $300 million is for. And it was allocated for IB. It needs to stay in Imperial Beach. And then the second, it's really important. We had a disastrous past year. I mean, our beach was closed from November of last year all the way up until until August. And you know why it's finally open in August? It's because when we were pressuring the Mexican officials, they finally fixed Pump Station Sila. They put $10 million. It has been almost completely open since then, and they've done some good work. So I applaud our Mexican officials.
Thank you, Mark. From your perspective, do all neighborhoods of Imperial Beach have equal access to city services? And if not, how would you plan to remedy that? Mark, if you could please start.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great question. You know, up until just recently, I don't think people realize this, but the majority of our council members have lived between 3rd and the beach. And that's been kind of that skews the electorate a lot, because then you have people who are only representing the beach community and not representing those communities over on 13th and 9th and even further beyond. So I'm really happy that we work diligently to make sure that we got districting done. We have 4 districts now. We will have a council member who represents each one from District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 4. And I am fully expecting that this districting will allow our residents to hold our council members more accountable, because they are not going to have to go out and look for their council member in each area of our community. They're going to be representing a specific district, and they'll be held accountable to that district. So I think districting was a great step in the right direction.
Thank you, Mark. Jack?
You know, I'm going to agree with Mr. Wester. I concur that the districting is really going to bring greater results for the individual neighborhoods of Imperial Beach. You know, I think that most residents do have access to services. I think we put a lot of importance onto the beach, and then, you know, we've been neglectful as a city towards part of our city. And I would say that District 4, where my good friend Will Nemo's campaigning, I think that, you know, getting park, and again, I know there's not a whole lot of space, but I think there's a lot more that we can do that's closer in those neighborhoods. That's the only place in Imperial Beach that does not have access to a park close by. And so, you know, I think that we look at that, try to find the funds, try to find the location, or put something that's unique for that area to find out what the residents want in their neighborhood and to build it. You know, again, I think we do spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of money on our beaches. It's a main attraction. We are Imperial Beach, but I think that the other neighborhoods of our city do need to have the opportunity to participate with the city's supplies.
Thank you, Jack. Little switch here. Do you support the increased sales tax proposed by Measure I? How would you recommend the increased income be used in Imperial Beach? And Jack, if you can start.
Sure, I do support Measure A. I think it's going to help the city continue to keep emergency services. I think that it's going to be a key for us, again, making sure that our city is safe and that all the things that we need to provide are there. The one thing that I really want to make sure that those who are listening tonight understand is that if elected, I will make sure that we have a committee that is dedicated and committed to making sure that this additional tax revenue is spent for the purpose that it was intended to. I know it's part of the general fund. It goes into a big pool and it's going to be pulled out of. But again, I think that oversight is super, super important, and making sure that as we go forward with the limited budget and the city fund, that we make sure that those extra funds are spent exactly what they were told us that they would be spent for. No constituents, no consultants, nothing crazy, no crazy ideas from but again, just take the hard-earned money that we're collecting in taxes and make sure it's being spent right is what I would do.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
So the revenue generated from Measure I is critical to maintain the municipal services in Imperial Beach. Residents of the community have identified personal and community safety as their highest priority. While this includes the sheriff and the fire departments, it must also include recreation for youth, safe roads, clean water, lifeguards, and many other community services. This is why this tax is a general tax rather than just the sheriff, because safety is a holistic effort. Maintaining a balanced budget is the highest priority for the staff and elected officials. In order to do so, there's been a reduction in all departments in the city in the past 2 years, and it's hurt us. These positions need to be refilled to provide the services the residents deserve, and further cuts cannot be an option. Measure I will add 1 penny to each dollar spent on taxable item. Groceries, essential services, and non-taxable items will not be impacting. Because Measure I will generate funds for the general funds, it is subject to an independent auditor, which is performed in the general fund each year. This audit is a public document that can be reviewed by anybody. All the residents have to do is ask.
Thank you, Mark. And
Sorry about my dog, by the way. My dog is barking crazy in the back.
no worries. My fan is also going haywire in this heat, so we've all got some nice acoustics. You both touched on this a little bit, but let's go ahead and dive in a little further. What is your understanding of how much of the $300 million for California cleanup will come to the Imperial Beach area, and what do you think the actual impact will be? And Mark, if you could start us off, please.
Sure. It is really critical. I think that's the most important thing that we have to work on right now, is to ensure that this $300 million stays in Imperial Beach. When I lobbied with Congressman Levin, Davis, Peters, and Vargas, it was specifically earmarked in the USMCA for the Tijuana River Valley. And as soon as the EPA started getting involved, they said, well, we can spread it out amongst the entire region of the IBWC. And that was not acceptable. So they immediately brought it back. The $300 million is supposed to stay in Imperial Beach, and that's important that we track that at all levels. And I think that we will continue to do that. And I think the 9 projects that have been identified by the EPA to start, I think they are amazing work, and they will work immediately. The one thing that I'm most concerned about is the Puta Bandera outfall. That is something that we cannot build a wall to prevent, and that is something that the Mexican government needs to stand up and do, because that affects us on dry weather spells.
Thank you, Mark. And Jack?
Yeah, I agree that, the money that's been slated to fix the problem is it needs to not necessarily stay in IB, but it needs to stay on course in making sure that the problems and the promises that were given to us, that they get fixed. It's been a long time to have this problem. The sewage has impacted not only local residents, it's impacted tourism, which impacts our businesses. This has changed the quality of life for us. I grew up here surfing all the time, north side of the pier, and I do remember having south swells and having the sewage come across, and it was few and far between. But over the last few years, we've seen an increase of sewage spills. We've seen an increase in days being closed. I think that we're absolutely, we don't hold claim to this $3 million, but we hold claim to the promise that it was given to us, that this problem was going to get fixed. It needs to be fixed quickly with some efficiency And again, getting out of the processes and getting results done, that's the key.
Thank you, Jack. Switching to another topic here. What improvements would you propose in the way the county sheriff serves Imperial Beach residents? And Jack, if you could please start us off.
Well, from what I can tell, from what I've heard from Mayor Dedina for many years, that the sheriffs are doing a great job. Their scorecard is fantastic. I think that they've kept our city safe. Changes, that's really up to them. I don't think that we necessarily dictate how they run their department. Obviously, we're paying the bill for it. That's important. But I'm very happy. I'm very proud of our sheriffs. I think they've done a great job. I think it's important for us to recognize that nobody's perfect. Every department, individual, company has their flaws. And, luckily enough, we don't see a whole lot of flaws of the sheriff department. They've provided great response. They're friendly. And they're doing their job. Again, their scorecard has been mentioned by our mayor multiple times in city council meetings of what a great job they're doing, how proud we are. The crime rate has been so low in decades. I am happy with the sheriffs and I love what they do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, sure. So I have been on record since 2017 saying that the sheriff's contract with our city will bankrupt our community, and it is continuing to do that. But you have to dig down into the reason why I'm saying that. We are asking our sheriff, our firefighters, and our ambulance drivers to be more than just law enforcement officers. We're asking them to be mental health professionals, to deal with addiction, to deal with the homelessness. These are all things that should not be a responsibility of our law enforcement or our LEO people. We need to take the county, and the county needs to once again open up that pocketbook that they have of $1 billion. And we need more PERT officers. We need more community service officers. I think, just like Jack, our law enforcement and the sheriff do a fantastic job in our community, and it's shown by how safe we are. But we need them doing law enforcement. I don't need them taking care of the homeless. That should be handled by the PERT officers of the county.
Thank you, Mark. And switching a little bit, but how would you tackle the cost effectiveness of policing for Imperial Beach while maintaining public safety? And Mark, if you could go ahead and start us off, please.
Well, great. That just kind of segues right into what I was talking about. It is important. I'm going to bring up two issues. We have our skate park right now is really having a lot of challenges. And the reason why is because I have nobody over there who can monitor it. If I had an Opie Taylor community service officer who didn't have a gun, who was over there just watching it, it would really be an effective tool to make sure that we have people following the rules at the skate park. And it'd be the same way at the pier. Right now, we have a lot of people who've had problems on our pier because of some increased violence that's happening there. And it's petty violence, but it is increased. And our sheriff, they shouldn't be going down there. If I had a community service officer who was paid for by the county, put at the pier and the skate park, would be much more effective. And then that will allow my law enforcement officers to deal with real crime instead of all of the other things we were counting them to do. So that's what it's a reallocation of funding and manpower.
Thank you, Mike. And switching over to Jack.
Yeah, the sheriff's contract it's quite spendy for us and has been for many years. This isn't something new. We've seen some increased, the higher percentage increase in the last couple of years. And I think, it's at some point it's going to get to the top, but we as a city, I think they've negotiated with the city. I agree. I would love to have some community service officers. I miss our dear Chris Brown. She was a sweetheart. And, we need people like that who are community service orientated, who can be ambassadors, who aren't there wielding a gun and puffing out their chest. They're there to help get the solutions to some of the problems that we have that, again, aren't violent crimes. And again, just having their presence is a key. So, I think, again, I said the sheriffs are doing a great job. I think they are. I think we look at how we can afford a few more community service officers. Again, those are the people who know our city, who know our residents, who know our town, and have a love for it. It's not just somebody who's on patrol that day based on their schedule.
Thank you, Jack. Switching gears one more time, how would you address the effects of illegal immigration in Imperial Beach? And Jack, if you could please start.
I'm going to be really short on this. Illegal immigration is really on the state and the federal level. Imperial Beach, we're near the border. I love all people. I think that we do need to make sure that laws are enforced for people who do come across the borders illegally. It's just what we need to do. So not much else to say about that.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
Yeah, sure. I have, it's really funny, City Manager Hall calls me his law enforcement council member because I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to deal with graffiti and deal with things that are happening in our community that need to be handled by law enforcement. And I'm going to be honest with you, illegal immigration is not something we have seen that has been impacting our community. Occasionally, we've worked with the Border Patrol where we've had boats and swimmers who have come across and land on our beach, but the reality has it's been very minimal. Now we have seen that there are times when Friendship Park may be vandalized or taken across at Borderfield State Park, but the reality of it is that illegal immigration has not impacted the quality of life in Imperial Beach, and in fact, the embrace of both sides of the border is kind of what makes Imperial Beach one of the great cities in Southern California.
Thank you, Mark. All right, we're down to our final question before our closing remarks. So here we are. What most distinguishes you from your opponent? And Mark, if you could please start us off.
Well, I think the reality is that I am really I think very highly of Jack. I think you've been doing a great job. I think your campaign is great, and I think you're doing everything you can to make sure that you're doing it for the same reasons I am, because you love this city and you love the community about it. But here's the deal. I fully believe that my time in the service, my time as a businessman, has prepared me for taking a regional role and a leadership role throughout our city and throughout our county. And I think that's very important. It's important that Imperial Beach punches above its weight. We cannot stand by and let this small town not get its fair share. And that includes when you're dealing with pollution. We have been out front and when able to bring us all together, Coronado, Chula Vista, the port, the county, all together to fight this, and the state. And you know what? That's because of our leadership and our willing to punch above our weight. And I think that's important. So those are the things that distinguish me.
Thank you. And Jack?
Sure. I think the first and foremost is that I've been in Imperial Beach for 4 decades. I've seen it from a simple town. I've seen the good. I've seen the bad. I've seen all that it's had. And so, having a local's perspective is super important, I think, for the residents of Imperial Beach. We are a unique town. I've traveled up and down every city in the San Diego County, every beach town, and I've seen, what they have to offer. And you know what? Home is always the best place to be. Imperial Beach is phenomenal. From having the best donuts growing up as a kid to having a gas station and a liquor store on every corner. But all kidding aside, Imperial Beach needs local leadership who understands the needs. I'm not going to grow the city. I want it to stay that same place. I want it to be safe. I want it to be a place that the heart of IB continues. We have great people in the community who do grassroots things, who take it upon themselves to make things happen. That's what I want to continue to happen throughout the coming years.
Thank you, Jack. Before our candidates give their closing remarks, I want to thank you for attending and asking such good questions. Please be sure you are registered to vote and that your address is correct at sdvote.com. And be sure to fill out your census form at my2020census.gov. All of those links will be available in the chat. Also, please attend more League events where we will give in-depth information on all sides of critical issues affecting our communities. We also want to be very clear about something that I had mentioned earlier. Both candidates for District 4 were invited to attend. Mr. Nemo accepted our invitation, but Mr. Gonzalez declined, and League policy forbids us from hosting with just one candidate for an office. We just wanted to clarify why we were not including District 4 this evening. We were really hoping to have them. So going from there, please attend more League events where we give in-depth information on all sides of critical issues affecting our communities. And now for the candidates' closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, and we will begin with Jack.
Well, hey, thanks. I really want to say thank you to all those who attended. Thanks for those who have put on a wonderful forum each voting cycle. I always look forward to being there. Obviously, with COVID happening, we're doing this a little bit differently. Still serve its purpose. One thing I just want to make sure that people understand about me, again, I'm a servant at heart. I think that the residents of Imperial Beach can put their trust into me to do the right thing and to listen and act accordingly, to represent them fairly, not only here in the city, but outside the city. I also want to make sure that, Imperial Beach, as we've grown up, it continues to grow, and we're doing the things. We have a balanced budget. Our city staff, city manager do a wonderful job. And I think we need to start being self-sustaining. We continue to see large amounts of money pour in from outside organizations like Sandag. There's nothing free in this world. Where you get, something needs to be given. And I think that we've seen that with the Imperial Beach Boulevard remodel on the streets. We're down to 1 lane over there. And, surprisingly, now Sandag's sticking us with 1,300 units of high density housing. So, I think it's important that we slow the progression of Imperial Beach, that we represent the residents. Local is an interesting term. I think it represents not people for the time that they've spent in our city, but for the heart that they have, how they feel about the city, and what they want it to be for them. Again, we're a small beach town. We offer an unbelievable lifestyle, some great surf, unmatched up and down the coast, as Mark can contest to as well. And, I think that for me, it's really about keeping IB, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Mark?
So, first of all, thank you again, the League of Women Voters. Thank you, the IB Chamber. But most of all, thank you to all the residents who took time on a Friday night to do a Zoom call. I was like, oh my God, can I get rid of another Zoom call? But I really appreciate it. So it means the world to me, and it really is important to all of you. And I hope you got a sense of how big this job is. Imperial Beach City Council doesn't pay as a full-time job, but it is a full-time responsibility. It takes someone with more than a passing interest in having a title. It requires a willingness to dig deep in every facet of running a city, from public safety to public health, business development, and regional collaboration, all while fostering a sense of shared community pride. It's important to not see the divisiveness of our national politics mirrored in our local politics. What we do at City Council impacts everyone in our community, Democrat, Republican, and independents alike. There's no room for voices which stand in the way of progress for our workers, our seniors, and most importantly, our children. For anyone who calls Imperial Beach home. Over these last 4 years, I've been willing to listen intently and sincerely to anyone who disagrees with me. Where I can find common ground, I will. And where my judgment leads to a different conclusion, I want you to know it is with a sincere intent to improve the quality of life for every one of us. That's why I'm running for re-election. I'm Mark West, and I want to represent District 2 for the next 4 years. And I hope I've earned your support. Thank you. God bless you, and have a great evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jack. As a reminder, the views expressed are those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters. On behalf of the Imperial Beach Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters of San Diego, I want to thank the candidates for running for office. It's really hard, especially during a pandemic, and you're all doing a wonderful job and going to many Zooms, so bless you for that. And particularly for attending this forum this evening with us. And thank you again. You are here tonight, all of you attendees, because you are following the League motto. Don't just be a voter, be an informed voter. Registered voters will receive their ballot in the mail. Drop it off or mail it by November 3rd and encourage others to vote as well. Thank you and have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.